It's Friday the 25th of June. In this second part of our pre-season special, we'll be chatting pre-season fixtures, talking transfers both in and out of Bloomfield Road. We're catching up on all the latest Blackpool news along with comments and quips. And I'm John Aspinall, and this is the Seasiders podcast. I'm imaginally titling this Pre-Season Transfer and News.
Ollie's already changed the world. Small town from the north of England with a great tradition.
Welcome back to the second part of our double header, our pre-season double header. Remix this title, pre-season transfer and news, because we had so much fun yesterday, didn't we, Tim? We're back more.
It was the time flew, didn't it? And we tried to be succinct, but as I often get accused of, verbosity is.
Oh, you did say you've been writing reading the thesaurus before you came on.
Well, I've got competition now, as we're going to discuss, so I've got to up my game.
Welcome, Sean. Anyway, two days on the trot. Thanks for coming on again.
Yeah, no worries. I'll leave the words to Tim as always.
You can have all the data side of things and the player knowledge. Given you are an accredited
I've got none of that.
journalist.
I've got none of that.
I'll bring out the dots and lines.
Matt, what do you bring to this party then? Like the Avengers are ensembling here.
Hopefully he's brought our pre-season predictions with him.
Well, what from last year or this coming season? Because obviously that's
last season.
Well, I can find them. I think I've still got them somewhere hidden.
I think your dog ate them, didn't they?
Yeah, well, I can find a dog, even though I don't have one. I'm sure I can find one.
I suspect we've seen the last of those, haven't we?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's an IT glitch. John got involved somewhere.
Yeah, if the uninitiated, we did do these pre-season predictions. Tim might have won.
I'll never know.
Right, listeners, viewers, etc. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome in the comments. Just before you get going, please like and subscribe to our channel. I've left it on the ticker this time because we want to get to that 1,000 mark. Tell your friends. Get them liking, get them subbing. Who's in the chat? Good to have you back, boys. Good to have you back, Eddie. You've been waiting to show us. Andy, I've only had one. Peroni. Bit of a lightweight. But on with the show, as it were. Right, pre-season fixtures. This is something Nick wrote, and I've even made a nice little graphic there. So we've got Friday the 9th of July, Squiresgate versus Blackpool 11, 7:30 kickoff. Saturday 10th of July, proper Blackpool, I guess. And Nick's put full details on this, Max. He's well up for this game, isn't he?
Yeah, he must be.
Kickoff 3 p.m. Tickets on sale now at Southport website. Just £12.
Do you think he's going, or has he got a part-time job selling tickets?
He's on commission. He's on commission for that, clearly.
Yeah, look at that. Full details.
There must be some good real ale pubs in Southport that he knows about, I reckon.
So those first two, so it's just a Blackpool 11, so I guess that'll be a reserve match. But Tim, Southport away, does that tickle your fancy at all?
I've been before. When did we play Southport last time? And we all went.
I didn't go.
It's fair. It's quite a good day out. But what date was it again? The 11th. Did I say the 11th?
The 10th of July. Yeah.
10th of July. What have I got on that week? I'm away next weekend. It's the weekend after, isn't it? No, Nick might persuade me.
Sean, you going?
Potentially, if I end up in the press box, I will, but I don't think I'll buy a ticket. If not, I'll just watch it on a stream or something, probably.
They're only £12, apparently.
There you go.
And they're on sale. So
now. Tickets on sale now.
I wonder how many they've allocated. I don't know how much their ground holds.
Who said jocks were tight?
12 quid is quite steep, isn't it, for a pre-season?
No, it's fine. That's fine. I'll probably end up going. Depends if what the weather's like, to be fair.
Question is if we can actually go. pre-19th
I know. Well,
of July.
it
and all
looks
that,
like I've seen they're selling it at 25% capacity, but I have no idea what their capacity is, and it's an all-ticket game, and you can only buy them through Southport, and they're kind of just letting fans mingle by the looks of it.
Right, fair enough.
If I'd hazard a guess, the capacity is about 5,000, so it'll be about 1,200, 1,250 that can go in.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's a nice little town, though, isn't it, Southport? A bit like
It's
bit
very
like
middle
Tin
class.
Tans. Yeah, that'd be right up your street, actually, Tim.
Walking down Lord Street in his brogues. Nice.
Hey, maybe we could use this as a pilot for our Tim.
Yeah, we could. Yeah, we could for our Fulham away trip. I've got some tangerine pants somewhere. Actually, I'm gonna have to dig them out.
Those who didn't listen to the show yesterday, we've allocated Fulham away as our version of a Gentry Day, which is going to be our Tim Day, where we've all got to go dressed up in brightly coloured chinos, but it can be yellow, red, purple, whatever takes your fancy. A
sports jacket.
Sports jacket, Ralph Lauren shirt, and brogues as a Matt's nicely added to the ensemble. So Southport away could be a test bed for that.
A test event.
Our own version of a test event. Jake's just said, we need your opinions on the new kit. Don't worry, Jake. We will be coming to that shortly. Right, the rest of the fixtures. Newport County N. I wonder where that is.
Neutral. It'll be neutral because they're in Wales, aren't they? It's different rules. So I presume we're playing it in England somewhere, middle ground.
Pray tell, Sean, what do you mean? What do you mean, like neutral?
Well, as in, like, I don't know, somewhere in between where we are in Wales
okay,
and where we are, I presume so. Because obviously it's different regulations, isn't it? When you cross border, so it'll be the COVID regulations. I think they're a bit more lax in England in terms of bubbles and things. So
does that mean Phil Ricky won't be allowed to come to Blackpool games?
Let's hope so, eh?
Especially
when Ballard's playing.
Wonder if he's lurking anywhere.
Only joking, Phil.
Come out wherever you are, Phil. But he's lurking. Not the wrong fixtures. After that, we've got Carlisle United away Saturday the 24th. That'll be a good trip. So it's going good to go to Carlisle, followed by Bamber Bridge.
That's a good centre of town in actually Carlisle, isn't it? For a few pre-match bevies. Good train job as well. That's, I reckon.
Could even do a bit of walking, Tim.
We could stop off on way, couldn't we?
Yeah. That's a good potential. Bamber Bridge versus a Blackpool 11 on Friday the 30th of July. Don't think I'll bother with that. And finally, to bring the season, the final game in the pre-season, Saturday 31st of July, Morecambe away. That might be another good one as well. So,
yeah, there's a lot of pubs near the ground there, so that'd be a good game.
And you got Lancaster en route, haven't you, as well?
Yeah.
I always remember seeing, was it Walshy who broke their ankle when they were... That was Iggy. There was a bit of messing around going on in Lancaster before we went to Morecambe. I think it was Iggy, ended up breaking his ankle as a result of a little bit, bit of tomfoolery going on outside the pubs. Is there not some suggestion, though, that we might end up playing Rangers in this period? So some of these games might be downgraded, might they?
Yeah, where will it fit in, though? Because I was thinking that, because I was thinking we've heard the rumours of the bigger game, but I mean, we start the season on the 7th of August, don't we? So you'd think it'd be on a weekend if we played them, and Morecambe's the 31st, so it's just where you'd fit that in, I guess.
Yeah,
but I suppose if the score's 24 or 28 or whatever, they can put an A and a B out, couldn't they, or something?
Yeah.
We have played two fixtures, but when was it when we played? We played two games, didn't we? Did we play Altrincham? We played Altrincham, and actually, no, it was actually when I went up to Barrow. We played Barrow, and I can't remember, it was Altrincham or somebody in Cheshire, and we played basically two teams and split the squad up. And so you've got the opportunity to do that, but I think I'm expecting a big marquee home game somewhere in there, whether it be the number of players we're signing from Everton. It could be Everton or Rangers. But Rangers will be great because of how many they bring with them. It would be a really quite a big crowd, wouldn't it?
I think I'll miss that one.
Andy Porter's just said Michael Portillo asks if he can come to Tourism Day.
That's the look we're after, Andy.
He's my style icon. Is Michael Portillo?
Yeah. Can you imagine if we're all on the train away somewhere looking like Michael
He
Portillo?
does.
Every
Every credit to Michael. Every credit to Michael Portillo. He does wear tangerine pants. I've seen him on when he's doing that great railway journeys. He has tangerine pants on sometimes, and it's quality.
No, I'm looking forward to this game almost as much as Preston away now. And the antithesis of Michael Portillo, as Eddie has just mentioned in the comments there, is a certain ex-chairman. Is Carl going to the Gentry Day in his red and orange Schlesinger top? Mac Hancock can asks if he can bring a friend. Are we on topic there, Andy?
Oh, we are very much.
Oh, right. Dan Pickavent down. Yes, boys. Life from Australia podcast. Keep me same. No worries, mate. I think is
Hope he's not in Sydney. They're locked down again, I think. I read
Is Dan originally English and from Blackpool? Maybe you can tell us, Dan, or whether you're an Aussie. Maybe. I think Dan's been on a bit, hasn't he, if I remember rightly?
Yeah. Either that or he's
not a Ken or Kenneth Dougal fan. He's just having to follow in Blackpool.
Right. So those are the pre-season fixtures. Anyone got anything else to say about them before we move on?
It's just it just depends how they're selling tickets, doesn't it? Really, because obviously Southport probably won't have that much interest. But you're looking at Morecambe and stuff. Whether they allow away fans and stuff will be the issue. But we'll soon see, won't we?
These Blackpool 11 games. What sort of players do you guess will be?
Youth mainly. It was like when we played Squires Gate and we played like Nathan Shaw and players like that. Maybe Cam Ant we might play if he signs a new contract.
If Mr. Holmes is playing Tim, might be worth just nipping down to Squires Gate and just have a look at him.
I've still not seen him in the flesh. He's playing on the pitch, So every time I've seen him, obviously he's played. He's been on iFollow. So yeah, I probably would actually, to be honest.
Yeah, dates for your diaries then, listeners. Right, let's move on to the transfer news, and there's plenty of this to go off. So Sean, you're going to take centre stage here, being of the background that you are. So players in today. We've even got another one in today. Sonny Casey from Kings Lynn, a midfielder. I guess you don't know much about him, do you? Or do you?
I've seen a few bits about him today. I just had a quick look, and he seemed to have played in the number 10 about 20 times this season, and then played the 18 games at right wing, but he's tended to play in the 10 for them this past season. It seems to be that he's a good goal scorer. He scored 6 goals from attacking midfield, which is a decent return for a number 10, really. He seems quite quick, quite good technically, but again, he's one of these raw players that have got the technical ability there, and it's all about Critchley. That's the reason he's come. Me personally, I know a few people are thinking he's going out on loan. I could potentially see him sort of sticking around, giving him a few games, a few starts here and there if we can, or a few bench appearances at the start of the season, and then potentially loaning him out once we bring in more players, because I think the number 10 role is somewhere where you'd really expect us to bring in a loanee from the Premier League. Those sort of positions are where you tend to get your loanees. So I'd presume that we're waiting quite late to go into the loan market, and that he'll get a bit of a shout early in the season and then potentially get faded out and put out on loan.
As I said on one of the previous shows, Darren McAntony, the Posh chairman, he says he never signs, particularly in the Championship, loan players in these marquee positions, centre forward and on the wings, because he says their model is to bring these players in, resell them, and those are the biggest transfer fees you receive. So do you think that would come into our sort of business model if you're looking at it from a business perspective?
I think that's easier to say when you're in League One and League Two, because the transfer fees that you're splashing out for those players aren't too big, and it's not as high risk as it is in the Championship. If you sign your marquee positions and you're only paying out a couple $100,000, say, on younger players and hoping that they'll come good in the Championship and step up, you want a balance, really, don't you? It's like you can have a couple of those, but if you look at all the teams that tend to go up in the divisions, they're supplemented by quality loan players. Yeah. So I think the loan market's key for a team like us, especially with the contacts that Critchley has as well. We might be able to get a player that perhaps we wouldn't have been able to get had he not been the manager.
Yeah, I think the better model seems to be like the Brentford model, where you develop, you buy a good player, you might pay £5 million for him, and you can sell him for humongous sums of money. I've forgotten who they sold the last player for. Was it about 30 million or something stupid? And then they spend 10 million, bring somebody else in, and they develop them, and hopefully they end
another
up
30 now, isn't he?
Yeah. So, and as projected them into the Premier League at the end of the day. So, I think it is. I think Sean's right. I think it's taking absolutely wild and wonderful punts. He's fine and dandy in League One, but when you're up in the Championship, it's very unforgiving. I think if you're playing players who aren't quite at the game, at the races. So I think there has to be a balance, and but there is the opportunity to make some serious money if you pick somebody up for the right amount, play them for a year, play them for 2 years, and then move them on and reinvest. And hopefully we're going to sort of follow Brentford and a few other clubs. So to be fair, Preston have done that too, not necessarily in the last couple of years, but in the couple of years before that, they've made some serious money in transfer fees. And if that then as long as you know that's going back into the team, I don't think anybody has a problem with it. And it should have been what we were doing 10 years ago. It's what we started off doing and then sort of lost the plot.
So nicely moves us on to our next signing. We're going to talk about Shane Lavery. Sean, do you see this guy making an instant impact, or is he going to be another one of these that we're going to develop, maybe loan out and a bit have him as a bit part player? Because Critchley does describe him as a ruthless goal scoring intent. 44 goals in 77 appearances for Linfield, 30 last season, and he's a Northern International Player of the Year, and also won the Young Player of the Year awards in Ireland. So, do you think he's this sort of player that's going to hit the ground running and be a partner for Yates, or be a sort of a number two for Jerry Yates?
I think he's quite hard to judge, to be fair. I think he's a really exciting player, someone that looks like he could quite easily step up, but at the same time, you've got to take into account the division he's playing in. I mean, Northern Irish division, you're probably saying is low-end National League, probably, if that. Like, he had a failed loan spell at Falkirk a couple of years back, but he was really young there. And he seems to sort of come onto a game at Linfield. He's he'll play on the last defender all the time. He'll always be on the shoulder looking to run in behind. He's quick, but he can also make goals for himself as well. I don't know if you've seen that goal against Karabag in the Champions League qualifier where he basically makes the goal all for himself. And he seems like he's quite a ruthless, instinctive finisher, as Critchley's obviously said as well. Someone who can bag you, say, 10, 15 goals just in the 6-yard box just by being in the right spaces at the right time. He seems to be a good reactor, but he also seems to be hard working off the ball as well, which is obviously really important for our strikers. You look at Yates and the impact that he's had based on his off the ball work. If he can have a partner that has the same energy that he has off the ball, and that's really important. I think the good saving grace for him in terms of sort of judging his quality, because obviously, as I said, it's quite hard to judge, is that he has scored a few goals in European qualifiers. And I mean, I watched quite a lot of the Champions League qualifiers early doors, and they do tend to get pasted, Linfield, year in, year out by whoever they come up against. But he's tended to be the one that's been the shining light for them and being able to grab a couple of goals. Scored against Rosenborg, and he scored against Celtic as well. And then he's scored also, obviously, in that game against Karabag. So he does pick up goals in those sort of bigger games, shall you say, for Linfield, and he's pretty much drove them to the title this season as well, because they had, as much as they're the most successful team in Northern Ireland, in recent years it's sort of been other teams like Cliftonville that have been the bigger sides, and since he's come in and scored the goals, he's been a real plus for them. And then obviously he's got the Northern Ireland international pedigree as well, so he's very exciting, but it's hard to judge where he's going to be at. So it may be a case that he beds himself in and then sort of comes alive the second half of the season.
I think the thing is with a lot of strikers. Sorry, John. I was going to say, I think the thing is with a lot of strikers, irrespective of what level they're currently at, and I can, you can look at where we are with Harry Kane at the moment in England's sort of position. Is that I'm a firm believer that a lot of strikers are fairly similar in a way, in that if you give them the chances, they'll score. They all sort of come off the same production line to a certain extent. Obviously, there's the ones that are at a very good high level, and they're just way beyond. But at League One, Championship level, possibly, if you can get the ball to these guys, they'll invariably, take the chances, hopefully. And this is obviously where I think Jerry Yates has obviously proved that last year. When we were starting to move forward, he started to score the goals. It wasn't any coincidence. And Shane Lavery might be a Jerry Yates Mark II, but, a bit of a rough diamond. So we'll just have to wait and see on that one. And if he can support him in any way or be a, let's say a typical sort of 70, 80-minute replacement for him and still provide those energy levels for us, I can see him, hopefully doing well for us.
Tim, you mentioned before the Everton connection. It's strange. It seems strange, doesn't it, that we're picking all these players from Everton, given we expected this to be the case with Liverpool.
Yeah, it's more than a coincidence, isn't it? I think. I don't know where Critch has
he
a
knows
connection.
someone at Everton.
He clearly does, doesn't he? And but yeah, we sort of saw it a little bit last year with the Liverpool connection, didn't we? But not a lot, not as much as we thought.
No.
And then we've seemed to have overloaded, starting with Ellis Sims. We seem to be overloading on the Everton connection, which I said is a little bit bizarre in some respects. But obviously, he's in the town, isn't he? And he's clearly got connections far and wide. And at the moment, it seems to be the most fruitful ones involve the blue side of the city. So as long as they all perform and as long as they all add value to what we're doing, then we don't really care where they come from, do they?
No.
It's just different to what we expected. I think we thought we were going to get, beyond the production line of the best Liverpool starlets, didn't we? And it's not quite really happened, has it, so far?
Obviously been put off by Woodburn, weren't we, really?
Well, yeah, I mean...
burned there, weren't we?
We were scolded. But yeah, it's... there's so many good players in the Liverpool academy that you would have thought. I mean, I still think that we'll end up getting someone from there this year, and hopefully somebody of a decent quality. It's just going to be interesting to see what happens with the loans, I think, and I'm sure we're going to go on to discuss that with regards to the ones we've had and the ones we may get, and the ones that and the ones that we may want to look for. But Liverpool, you would have thought Liverpool would be the starting point for Critchley. Bearing in mind, he'll have probably coached all these lads and he'll know them inside out.
Okay, let's move on to our next signing then. Sean Oliver Casey, 20-year-old signed from Leeds on a 3-year +1. And he's a centre half and has started 3 times in the Leeds United first team squad. And I've noticed on a lot of these signings, it's all 2 years plus option, 3 years plus options. That's always it's a sign of intent there, isn't it, of our policy?
Yeah, I think so. I think as well, it's not a coincidence that when you're looking at the sort of rotation options and the backup options that we're signing, we signed obviously Dan Grimshaw, as we'll come on to, the subkeeper as well from Man City, and we're signing a player from Leeds, and both of them sort of follow the same sort of style and model that we want to sort of pride ourselves on, and they put it through all of the youth pathways, which is obviously the way we want to play. So if they've already got an idea of sort of holding a higher line and playing aggressively and being able to be good on the ball at the feet, then that's already a bonus coming in, especially as a young player coming in. It's less work and he's sort of got the initial ideas there and foundations to build on. I think Casey probably will be a backup option. I can't see, I know a few people have put him in their starting 11, but I can't see him being a starting 11 player yet. I think he's definitely someone that's probably going to be more of a rotation option. But to have someone, he's quite a commanding presence in the air as well, as much as he is quite confident on the ball of his feet. He takes risks. He took a lot of risks I watched back the under-23s game where we played Leeds under-23s, and it was he did take a lot of risks on the ball, and obviously sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't. But if he's willing to take those risks at that age, you've got like a fearless centre-half. That's exactly what Neil Critchley wants, and I know some people have heart in mouths when we have centre-halves like that, but that's ultimately the way we're going to be going forward. So yeah, for me, it's another positive signing. It's someone who clearly there's people after. I know there's another fullback from Leeds under 23s that's been being let go, I think, by the club today, and I think we're rumoured interest. I forgot his name, but it definitely seems to be that we're kind of looking around those sort of academies that are progressive in the way that they play, so that they've already got the foundations built.
Hopefully he's a right back.
Yeah, he is a right back, yeah. So hopefully we'll be going in for him, but we'll see.
Tim, this moves on nicely to our next signing, Callum Connolly. In my notes, I've got he's capable of playing anywhere across the back line or midfield. 23-year-old signed on a 2-year deal from guess who?
Yeah, Everton. But obviously, and we actually got a little bit more unfortunately, my son's doing his Nick impression, doing his Just Eat meals at the moment. He was telling me that he tends to play in the middle of a back three, does Callum. And the interesting thing, probably the most interesting thing about, because of course he spends the time at the Cods, is that they made him captain. So it's quite unusual for a lone player to be made captain of a side. And
I thought that.
But I think I see that as a massive positive, because that suggests that he's got a great personality and he's obviously come into the club and made a significant impression if he's made captain. And it makes me wonder whether we're thinking of playing more of a 3 at the back next season, and because clearly he's comfortable in that type of role, and I think he'll be a starter.
Matt, do you know anything about Callum Connolly? Given your what Steve Kerwood may or may not know about. Well,
no, I
does know a bit about him.
I haven't spoken to Steve, but I do remember that when he played against us, he was up against Ellis Sims, and obviously they've both come from Everton under 23, so it's quite interesting. And all I can remember is I don't remember a lot about him, in that he didn't seem to put a foot wrong or anything that sort of stood out in the wrong way. And I think he's played 50-something games for Fleetwood last year, which is pretty much all season, which can only be a good thing. The lad's obviously got quite a lot of experience now. And, yeah, I see him as a starter as well. It will be interesting to see, as Tim's mentioned, how we actually set up, whether we're going to play 3 at the back or 5 at the back, however you want to describe it, or whether it just gives us other options if we do go with a sort of flat back 4 type of approach.
Apparently, he's been at Wigan and Ipswich as well before he went to the Cods. So he has played a bit, and
that's important, isn't it? Because all these lads who are 2021 that we're getting in, they haven't got a handful of games between them, have they? But this lad's got a good season plus behind him, so that you'll probably be able to say and see the difference between him and 1 or 2 of these other lads, I would imagine. Just like we've seen the difference in Ellis Sims from the start of January till the end of the season, haven't we? We've seen a player who's developing, and whether we'll see him back next year or not. I think towards the end of the season we saw a player that I couldn't see at the start of the season. I couldn't see where Ellis Sims was going to develop, and then within 2 or 3 months he's actually making a significant contribution. And I think the good thing is, because we're now in the Championship, we actually should see a lot better players, and whether teams are loaning them to us, like the Dewsbury Halls of this world, or whatever, like Luton have benefited from last year, or whether it's players that we're able to buy and develop ourselves. I think it'll be a blend of the two. I suspect, and it's quite exciting, really, because you're going to see some good young talent, I think, and it's going to be very, very interesting to see how they develop and how we develop as a team.
Sean, briefly, your thoughts on Callum Connolly? He's played at the Championship level as well, I've noted.
Yeah,
I don't know who that was for, though.
For me, obviously, we're saying about the back 3. I think as Tim said, he's a starter, and I think he's in the centre of the back 3. I think he's the Ballard replacement, personally. I think we've gone with the permanent signing rather than the loanee. A bit of security in the back line.
How big is he? Is he good in the air?
He's just a solid rock. Like they were not well organised at all defensively. He was very loud on the pitch, very commanding player. When I went to see them a few times, he had young, inexperienced players beside him, and he coached them through the game despite being young himself. And he's good on the ball. He's aggressive. Again, it's all these sort of same words. You're good on the ball, aggressive, good positional sense, happy to play a high line, can trust himself to get back in time, pace-wise. So for me, I would play a back 3 with Ekpiteta right, him centrally, and Gretason left as we stand. And I think that Critchley's probably going to go down a similar avenue. I think it takes the load off Maxwell a lot as well, because Maxwell was constantly coaching our defensive back line throughout the games, every game of every season. So if you've got someone in there that has the experience and know-how themselves, then it sort of takes the load off Maxwell a bit, and he can concentrate more on his own game as well.
My slight concern is whether Epictetus goes up that next level. I think that's going to be an acid test for him because it's a big leap, isn't it? And he either will do it or he won't do it. I think we know I think from what I've seen of Connolly so far, and what I've heard of Connolly so far, I think he will do it. Obviously, we've seen Thornley has played at championship level. I'm fairly confident about Gretason. I'm just not sure.
I know what you're saying, Tim. I know what you're saying.
I'm not saying it from a nasty perspective. I'm just saying that he's the one where I think, can he make the next leap? Because to be fair to him, he made the leap from Div 2 to Div 1, didn't he? It took him a little bit of time to settle in, but once he did, he was fine. Can he make that next leap? And I'm just not sure at the moment.
I think our sort of judgments on him probably have been clouded since the injury because he's obviously come back and he just never really got back up to speed, did he, after the part? But I like to remember him as that centre half that was part of that complete run where we just looked rock solid. I remember the Fleetwood away performance with Gretason by his side, and they were the best partnership that we've had this season, Gretason and Epictetus, in terms of just a solid partnership that understood each other. So I'm quite happy with Epictetus. I think Epictetus is going to have a really good season. I think he's going to step up just because he's got all the attributes there of the way we want to play. And he will make mistakes. There'll be 2 or 3 times next season where he will make mistakes that may cost us a goal just simply from the way he plays. But the way he plays probably brings a lot more progression on the whole in the team, I think.
To be seen, Josh Bowler, 22-year-old winger. I think someone mentioned in the chat how we signed the wing. Was it Richard? Yeah, Richard. Yes, we have signed a winger. From guess who?
Everton.
Apparently, they spent a big fee on him to bring him from QPR.
Do we know how much? I don't know how much a big fee is.
No, it just said
it was like 1.7, I think. 1.7, 1.8. They paid QPR.
That's fairly serious dough, isn't it?
He's another one. He's only 22, handful of games. But I think he had a bit of. Did he play at Hull, Sean?
Yeah, he had a lot of injury issues. I think they were going to end up bringing him back, and then the injuries sort of played him. But I'm not sure on him personally. I think he's from watching.
They were giving him a 1+1, Sean. So maybe the team.
Yeah, exactly. I think it'd have been silly to give him a long-term deal. I think because he's again obviously not just injuries, but he doesn't seem. He has moments and flashes of quality in the final third, but he's very much a player that's sort of he'll drive direct down the wing. He looks good as a winger in terms of the physical aspects, but technically on the ball, in terms of the final third and his delivery into the box, he wasn't the greatest. In terms of, I saw the lad up the mighty pool, he put a graphics out from his XG, and in terms of expected assists, he was one of the weakest wingers in the under-23s division last season in terms of his actual quality in the final third. So he's got the raw aspects there to his game that he looks like you could mould him into a good player, but with the injury risks and his performances recently, and obviously it's kind of getting to the stage now where he needs to have a good season and a good run of games before he kind of fades off into obscurity. So that's why we've not took the risk, but there is definitely a player there that we could mould into a good player on the wing.
I suppose it's a calculated risk, as you say, isn't it? More of a punt in this one. And I think if I remember rightly, someone will correct me, I'm sure, but when we signed Grant Ward, because of his history of injuries, I think we only signed him on a short-term deal. Yeah. And then, we've obviously got him on a longer one since. So it can work. And obviously, there's a player, talking of which, that, obviously didn't play much in the last few games of the season. So he's almost like a new signing as well, isn't he? So obviously we want these lads to do well for us, but I do feel there's definitely a bit more of a punt about Josh Bowler than any of the others that we've signed.
But there is one major attribute for Josh Bowler that you're all forgetting to mention, which is this. He has got some beautiful Nick Smith style curtains direct from the early 90s. Look at that. Is that style of haircut coming back to Sean for you of a certain vintage?
I don't bloody think so.
Sean, I think just for shits and giggles, I think you should sport one of these, grow one of these.
Yeah.
For the next season. If we're doing all the...
See, John, if you were doing your job properly, you would have had a half and half with Nick from the early 1990s next to him.
That could be my task for the next episode. Then so,
maybe it's got top-notch potential. Perhaps maybe that's what you're saying.
In fact, that's one of the attributes that Critch wrote down. Yeah, it has top-notch potential. One of the reasons why they've signed him. Josh Bowlhead, as Dan's just put. Is that if that hairstyle is coming back? I'm screwed. It must be, Andy. It must be. Centre parting is back in for Gen Z. They laugh at our side partings now. Tim, I think you might get away with some curtains, actually. Yeah.
I've still got the hair to do it, haven't I? I need to get a haircut, actually, to be fair.
Okay, Dan Grimshaw. Sean, what do you know about Grimmy?
Very little, to be fair. He's just sort of been in and around the youth ranks. Man City seem to think of him quite highly in terms of the way he was playing. He was on the bench a couple of times when they had an injury, so they obviously trust him to be there in case. He was on loan in Belgium, in like the second division in Belgium, at one of City's feeder clubs. So he's had the experience of playing games, but it was only about 10 games. He's just got the attributes: good passing, out from the back, good positional sense again, good organisation. These sort of general. You think Stuart Moore, probably a slight upgrade on Stuart Moore, but he's not going to challenge Chris Maxwell. I don't think. He's just sort of your run-of-the-mill backup goalkeeper.
No, we've got 5 goalkeepers now on the book. Is that right?
Is it the Polish lad get released, or did he stay?
I don't know. That's what I was including him. So
no,
got Maxwell.
Yeah, him and Sims got released, I think.
Oh, they both got released, have they? Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to say, how many goalkeepers do you need in a squad? Right.
This is my Man City intel. That's why I was looking a bit distracted. I had to turn my phone on and then try and find it. I asked one of my Man City mates what they thought of Grimmy, and they said, viewed as a real quality talent for the future, surprised he's gone. Manchester lad, which caused excitement amongst fans, as with Foden. He's been out on loan. I suspect he's now lost out to another academy player, Bazanui, who became the youngest ever keeper at 19 to play for England Bees, being the record held by Shea Given. Apparently, he's the Dogs. A shame. A lot of us wanted another local lad to come through, but competition is incredible. Should do well for you. So, on the basis of that, he might be a little bit more than a bit part player. You don't know. Maybe he's going to really.
Bazuni was the lad that was on loan at Rochdale last season. He was 16 when he was at Shamrock, and then he went to Rochdale last season and had a pretty good year. So if he's displaced him, then that's probably the level you're looking at for Grimshaw then in terms of his quality.
I mean, we've always said that all the way through last season that we needed somebody to push Maxwell, and I don't know whether Moore necessarily pushed him, but it'd be good to have competition, definitely. And if this lad can look the business in pre-season, it's just something for Critchley to think about a little bit more, really, rather than just automatically going for Chris Maxwell every week. It'll be interesting to see.
You've got to think
potential is good.
You've got to think he's come in thinking that he's going to push anyway, because why would he? He wouldn't have took the risk really if he didn't know that it was a straight backup option. But I guess Chris Maxwell came in as a backup option, really, didn't he, for Jack Anick when he first came in? So.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I know we've mentioned Everton a dozen times already, but it's good that we're getting these young lads in from the higher echelons of the Football League, aren't we, rather than pulling them in from, wherever it happens to be lower league-wise. So they've obviously got something about them to get to that level in the first place. So, yeah, hopefully our head coach can bring the best out of them all.
And finally, Sean, Reece James, I think was our first signing, wasn't he? 27-year-old left-back from Donny, 3-year +1. 80 appearances from 9 goals, and from the Manchester United Academy, and one of Doncaster's best players, I believe.
Yeah, this is my favourite signing. I think probably just on par with Connolly, but this is the one that I'm probably most excited about. I personally think he might even play centre mid, because he played centre mid quite a lot for Donny back end of the season. He was in the top 5% of successful dribblers in League One last season, so he clearly can take the ball forward. But he's most well known for sort of breaking up play, distributing, moving it forward, as he was at Donny in centre mid. And then at left back, he was good at progressing the ball forward, but also really defensively sound as well. If you're thinking almost Ollie Turton, but he can actually put a decent ball into the box, is kind of Reece James's game. He's just better going forward. So if you're looking at defensively side of things, I know people thought that Ollie Turton was defensively sound and then Gabriel was better going forward. Reece James is kind of a balance between the two of those players. So for me, I'm really excited about him.
In a 3-5-2 or a 5-3-2, whichever you want to call it, you see him on the left-hand side of the middle three, do you?
No. So I would probably have him where he was at Donny, was in the central area, like sort of in between the back line and the midfield, so in the CDM role almost, in just sort of breaking up play and distributing it onwards. But then he's really, really versatile. I think that's probably one of the main reasons we signed him, because if you play a 3-5-2, he's just as well playing the left midfield role as he is at breaking up play in the central areas as well. So it's versatility that really helps.
Yeah, it's probably competition directly for maybe somebody like Luke Garbutt then possibly, who could be a bit attacking as well as defensively, and maybe Reece James is on a similar sort of vein. So it's good to have another option, isn't it? Because we tend to always think about it's either Luke Garbutt or James Husband, but now we've got Reece James as well, haven't we? So I think the left-hand side seems to be pretty much secured, and we've just got gaps on the right, haven't we? It would seem at the moment.
Okay, which nicely segues on to the players that were re-signing. The first, James Husband, Matt, that you've just mentioned there. Where does he slot into this team now, given...
Well, yeah, I mean, Sean's just used the word versatile, and I think that's what you get. Probably surprisingly after last year, I didn't think Luke. Sorry, I said Luke Garbutt. I didn't think James Husband was going to be as versatile, because he's only really ever played as a left back for us, but obviously played left back and centre half and in the back three as well. So he gives us a little bit more than I think probably most of us thought he was going to, certainly at the start of the season. And on his performances last year, I mean, hands up, I'm not his number one fan, but he richly deserved a new contract, and I was more than happy to see him sign it as well, because he's still only 27. He's still got a couple of years of decent football in him, and whilst he might not still be, top of my particular starting 11 list, perhaps, I would like to see him getting involved in an awful lot of games next year. And I think his leadership is obviously, key as well, in terms of there's a lot of young lads around.
I can imagine he's good in the dressing room, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly.
He's one of those players that the younger lads well, excuse me, I can fuck about with. He's like, he's one of the, he will be along with two or three others, because that Dougal is. He's like, I think he's probably too chilled to like lead a dressing room, isn't he? He'll probably lead by example. Maybe Stewart will to a degree. Medine will have a lot to say, and I think Husband and Maxwell will be the defensive side of things. But you need captains all around the pitch for me, and you've got a captain in goals. You've got captain, if not one, if not two at the back, and you've got captains in midfield, and you've got captains up front, and the best teams have that all the way through, don't they? They don't have, they don't have people abrogating responsibility left, right, and centre. They have people who are prepared to step up to the plate. And I think Husband, whatever you think of his abilities, and I think he's, he always does a great job for me. Whatever you think of his abilities, that he's always going to be there and go toe to toe with everybody. And if somebody's dropping a bollock, he'll tell them they're dropping a bollock, and he'll make them pull the socks up.
I mean, he's not the biggest player in the world, but he's got that kind of the kind of arrogant swagger that Barry Ferguson almost used to have. Do you know what I mean? Like, he was very assured in his own ability, and he's played with his chest out and his shoulders, out. And he's just that kind of player that you need in your team. He's got that confidence. And as Jordan has said there, he's also got very high XT rating, Sean, expected, which is Josh Bowler needs to raise his XT if he wants to reach the levels of Jimmy Husband.
I was just going to say with Husband that he learns his lesson as well. I think obviously he got caught out a couple of times at the start of the season, and he learned to take that extra half yard and knew when to drop off. And he's taking that coaching on board still, and he's one of our most experienced players. You need to have that experience in there at the end of the day. But I think he only plays as a rotation option in a back three on the left hand side. I don't think he plays left back, and I don't think he really plays centre back in a four. So I think he will be a rotation option. I don't think he's probably going to start for as much, but he's as Tim said, you just want someone in there that fills in and does the job, and he's been good every time he's come in. And you need those players on your bench in the Championship that you can rely on when things are starting to go wrong.
2-year plus an option as well. So that shows you how highly he's thought of.
He's only 27, isn't he? I always
really
27. So it's like you just presume because of how young our squad is, he's like 38 or something, but he's not. He's like 27, so he's in his prime years, really.
Yeah. Which nicely leads us on to Gary Goals. Gary Goals is back on the winning team. 1 year plus a 1 year deal. Don't think he's got an option. Joint top scorer in the FA Cup last year. But Matt, great to have Gary Goals back on there. Gives us that other option up front if we need to go along and get it to stick up there.
Yeah, I was actually surprised. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, there's rumours about what he was paid last year. And I suspect that whatever he's been paid this year is substantially less than that. He might just realise at the age of 30, 31, I think he is now, that he's probably not going to have another opportunity to play in the Championship, because I wouldn't have thought many clubs would be after him particularly. Let's be honest, there's half a dozen clubs that aren't allowed to buy them because of transfer embargo. So his options are pretty limited anyway. But I'm happy to see him in the squad. And again, much like we've said about James Husband, I see him being a squad player. I think he'll certainly help out when, we need to do the usual game management with 15 minutes to go or whatever. But, quite frankly, I think that's why we've only got him on a 1 year deal. I think his injury at the end of last year didn't help. And, he hasn't been, prolific, let's be honest. So a good squad member, definitely. But I don't see him being much more than that, if I'm brutally honest.
It's a bit harsh calling him not calling him prolific, Matt. We did miss half the season, didn't he?
Well, he's not. I don't know what his goal record is, but I don't remember him smashing in 20, 30
he scored
goals.
Big goals, didn't he? I think that's why, because obviously he scored
big goals.
West Brom he turned up, and then the Peterborough away game as well. So, but I think with teams signing him, I think that injury, I don't know if he's ending up going for. I don't really know what the situation is, because when he came back, he looked like he could hardly walk, let alone run. And I do wonder if he will end up getting the surgery. They were kind of just playing through the pain a bit, weren't they? So if he ends up getting the surgery, he might come back to where he was last season. But for me, I think it's a 1 year deal for a reason. I think it's probably one that I just can't see him really featuring, to be honest. I think it's kind of going to go a bit wayward. But
it's interesting. Our guest Robin thinks they'll have him, but I think he'll be a plan B. He'll be a 50 minutes from the end of the game. And when somebody's asked in the chat who's playing up front with Yates, I think that's still up for debate, isn't it? I don't think Lavery's the start. I think Lavery's another option. Hopefully we're going to see a little bit more from Holmes, but I think we're going to see either another signing or we're going to see a marquee loan signing, whether it's Sims coming back or whether it's another player from Liverpool or elsewhere. I think we're going to see somebody come in up front. Yeah, I don't think we're going to see somebody coming at right back as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Next player who's re-signed is Stuart Moore, signed on a 1+1. He's going to be third choice goalkeeper, so we'll just leave it there. And finally, Grant Ward and Ben Garrity contract options.
Garbutt as well, didn't we? We had Garbutt.
Sorry,
yeah.
Luke Garbutt, Luke Garbutt, Matt. Great to see him signing up, and I don't think we'd have signed a player of his calibre had we not gone up.
Yeah, I mean, he's a player that I guess does he defy opinion? Possibly, but I think you're getting a quality player, one that's in
goals from nothing, potentially.
Goals, important goals, and we can harp on about his set pieces, but they've not been as spectacular as probably we would all have liked last year. But
his open play goals have been spectacular, haven't they?
Well, he has got, it's a bit of a cliche, but he has got a wand of a left foot, and he might get caught out defensively here and there, which is probably another reason why we might look at a back three as opposed to him being a full back in a back four. But I like the guy. I think he's a really good footballer, a quality player, and you can tell that he's come from a higher level. And I think hopefully he'll be suited much more to Championship football, ironically, than League One, where it's a bit more sort of huff and puff, isn't it, at League One, really? So, yeah, I think he'll do really well for us next year. High hopes.
Grant Ward, Sean, great to see him signing up again. Really came into his own last season there. A player we'd almost written off, I think, earlier in the start of the season, and the back end of the previous season.
It was under Grayson, wasn't it? Yeah, it kind of didn't really feature much, and you just kind of did a bit of nothing when he was in. But I mean, that says a lot about what Grayson was doing with the players at the time compared to what Critchley's done. But he makes it look easy, the job he does. He's got a really hard role in that team, and he frees up a lot of space for the rest of the midfield. He takes a lot of the burden off the rest of the team. I remember when we had Gary Taylor-Fletcher on, and he was saying that David Vaughan did that in that Premier League team, just took the burden off everyone else. All those roles that sort of they go and do that job that people don't want to do. And Grant Ward does that so well, so good at distributing the ball. He takes the ball on in any tight area. That's a good thing about him as well. Him and Dougal are both great at that. Under pressure, you're going to be up against a better quality of opposition in the central midfield, and you have to be brave on the ball in the Championship if you want to get anywhere. And Grant Ward's someone who'll take it on in any area, and I think that's exactly the type of player that Neil Critchley will rely on, and exactly the type of player that will lead by example for us.
Tim, yeah, your thoughts on Grant Ward signing up again? Just generally his performance last season. He was up there for player of the season for me.
Yeah, I think it was a bit unfortunate for him. He got injured just towards the end and probably cost him his starting place, didn't it, in Wembley? But I think we've got a strong midfield. I actually still think we're going to recruit there, but with Kenneth Dougal and Ken, or whatever we're going to call him in Australia, and with Stuart, I think we've got players who know how to play in the Championship, and Ward's been playing in the Championship as well. So I can see some sort of rotation between those three, I suspect, and another. I think there's another coming in. And
We've
I think
got
the
Matty
other one,
Virtue as well, haven't we? I always forget his ear, but when Matty Virtue plays box to box, I think he's a great player. I think he brings the energy in that midfield that you want. So I think
I've got slight concerns as to whether Matty can move up to the next level.
You're his biggest fan, though, Tim.
I like him, but I liked him in the Division 1. I'm just a bit concerned about... I don't know if he's got the ball control for the Championship, personally. I think he is a great box-to-box player, but I personally think he's League One. But I know if he proves me wrong, Matty, prove me wrong. I'm happy to, eat my chinos, whatever I've got to do whenever.
When is this Fulham away day, anyway?
No. Is it February?
End of January.
End of January, beginning of Feb.
It's in the middle of winter, though, isn't it?
But I actually think
I'd like double jumper over your shoulder,
right? Yeah,
good insulators.
I'd like the next. You want the next Dewsbury Hall, don't you? Really, you want whoever. I mean, I don't think Leicester are going to loan him out again next season. But if they did, and there's an opportunity to get him, I would snap that.
I know what you're saying, Tim. I think we need that bit of vavaboom.
He's a good extra option.
He was Luton's man of the match every single game, virtually every single game of last season. And if we're going to compete in the Championship, we need to find a lone player who fits that bill. We originally found Charlie, didn't we? And then we found, when we were in the Championship last time, we found various lone players, Seamus Coleman and various other people, DJ Campbell, Adam, and all of them added value. We need to find the biggest thing Critchley's got to do, and his team this year, is find 2 or 3 lone players that add value, and that is going to be crucial to how our season goes next year. Because as good as our squad will be, we've got to compete against some really, really in-depth squads with proper quality. And they might be basket cases, but they've still got good players. And I think we need to recruit 2, if not 3, quality loans.
I think you look at Luton is a good example. They've obviously gone and replaced Dewsbury Hall with a permanent signing. They've signed Alan Campbell, who I'm pretty sure we were looking at, because I was right on board with that, and he'd have been a perfect next step up level player that you can get. So there are permanent signings out there. So Alan Campbell he's centre mid from Motherwell. He's a young lad whose contract expired at Motherwell, and Luton have ended up signing him on a free transfer, and that for me is a great bit of business for them. And that's the sort of level of player I should think we're trying to get. We obviously couldn't sell him on that, because I imagine that because Luton have been established for an extra season than us, that's probably took the edge. But I think there are permanent signings out there, and I kind of trust that we may find permanent signings, because you look at that whole, when Ben Mansfield came out and said we had 2 lists, we had the League One list and we had the Championship list. I'd say out of the players that we've signed, Reece James and Callum Connolly are the 2 that are probably off of that Championship list so far. So you think if they've got a long list of potential recruits, then I think the levels that we could be getting as a permanent signing may well be at the level that a loanee could be, but we can always then supplement them with loanee players as well.
Okay, let's move on to players out. Shown the door are Liam Feeney, Alex Wojciech, Sully Kai, Jack Sims, Ollie Turton, Adi Youssef. So the only ones we're raising eyebrows there, I think, Matt, are Ollie Turton and Sully Kai. I think Ollie Turton leaving was the biggest shock for me.
I thought Kai personally was the biggest shock, but I mean Turton obviously seemingly looks like he'd done his work prior to the playoffs actually, in getting signed by Huddersfield, and fair play to him because apparently he wasn't on a big wage at Blackpool, and he's I would assume got a decent pay rise by going to Huddersfield. I don't know where he lives, but I would imagine it's not too much of a commute to him, is it, to get over to Huddersfield from where he's at currently? So at his age and stage of his career, I think it's a decent move for him. Obviously, it's a good move. He stays in the Championship as well. I don't rate Huddersfield chances for staying in for the whole of for the season after next, but I hope he'll make a decent fist of it. I think I like the guy. I think he's been a good solid pro for us, and wish him all the best. But the Kai one, I thought he arguably deserved another probably a year or so, but ultimately we go back to various conversations that we've had last year. He's just not consistent, is he? And I think that's what Critchley needs, is consistency, especially when you're going up a league. So it was probably a shock to a degree in that, we know what he can do. We only mentioned the goal against Middlesbrough last night and various other bits and pieces about him. But I think if you're going to step up, you need somebody who's going to give you 8 out of 10 every week. And he just doesn't do that, does he? So whilst he's got his lovers, and I know there's, Mitch and one or two other people,
I think he was
got a lot of detractors.
Do you not think, he put that tweet out, didn't he?
Yeah, he didn't expect it, did he?
I think he was shocked that he didn't get another deal.
Yeah. But maybe that's sort of part of his makeup, though, isn't it? That, maybe he was a bit too relaxed then. And
complacent.
Possibly, possibly.
I think you make a very good point, Matt. I think if you've got to, I think we joked on here, didn't we, about is it Kai turning up or is it Kai's twin brother? And the reality is that you can't have Jekyll and Hyde performances week in, week out, and most certainly you can't have them in the Championship, because we will get relegated as a result of the inconsistencies like that. We need players who can, even if they're not playing on the game, can grind out results. And the reality is he doesn't do it.
Tim, if you look at the man we've just mentioned, Ollie Turton, you think about the number of positions he's played in last season, and he did a bloody good job wherever he was asked to play.
Yeah. I think the issue with Turton is, and I'm surprised he's gone to a Championship club. I thought he might have gone to another League One club, albeit a good one. Is that Huddersfield think I would have concerns about Turton's ability to step up to Championship, genuinely, just like how with Virtue. Yeah. With Kai's got the ability, but I don't think he's got the application. And I don't think you'll see Kai sign for a Championship club. I think the talk of him going to MK Dons, isn't there? Yeah. And the reality is that League One's where he'll play, because League One is where he can get away with Jekyll and Hyde performances. And that's harsh, but it's true.
Yeah.
And we are going into a completely different stratosphere as regards the quality of the players we've got to have, and we can't carry passengers.
And the thing is, as well, I mean, he's still young enough, isn't he, Kai? What is he, 25 or something? I'm guessing. It could be a bit of a kick up the arse for him as well, and he might actually think, "Oh Christ! Well, if I'm still in League One next year, I've really got to, pull my finger out and do whatever I can, not just to, secure whatever team I'm playing in the highest position, but obviously, he's got a career to think of, hasn't he? And maybe this is, a bit of tough love that he needs, perhaps."
I think with Kai, it's the off the ball work and the other added elements that go into being in our team as well. Critchley asked lots of the players, and I didn't think Embleton was particularly the most sort of quality player on the ball in terms of his number 10 role, but he added so much off the ball, and his work rate and his intensity in his play was just unmatched compared to Karkai's, and he obviously didn't trust Karkai to be in the number 10 role. And if we are going with the 3-5-2, he's not going to play him out wide either, and out wide doesn't suit him anyway. So I think Critchley first and foremost goes for, as much as he likes quality, he goes for those other added elements. So that's why I think he's brought in Josh Bowler, because he's got that about his game off the ball as well, and he feels like he'll be able to put sort of this, it'll suit the system more, as Karkai's more of a luxury player, and I don't think Critchley likes luxury players because it's just not the way that he works, and it's not the way he wants his team to work.
Well, brilliantly put, gentlemen. That's why you're all on the Seasiders podcast panel for this expert insight. Right, that was the transfer news, and there's a bloody lot of it. Now let's move on to Nick's news, even though he's not here. Nick's news.
That was fucking loud.
Can I create a centre part in and pretend I'm him?
Yeah, we need to maybe have a wig for Nick's news and like the curtains, the 90s curtains hairstyle.
I've nearly done it.
Good effort, Tim. Good effort. Right, I'll rattle through this news, and we're an hour already. Can you believe that? Kenny Dougal, firstly, and the hacking of the Australian Player of the Month awards, I thought was particularly amusing.
I thought you were going to say the hacking of his hedge then, because my mum popped out the other day and had a word with him.
Well, God, you can't leave that hanging there. Tell us the full story.
So he's obviously been away, as you just mentioned, to Kuwait and everything. And she looked out the window and saw Kenny Dougal hacking away at his hedge, which had obviously grown exponentially over the last few weeks.
Has the hedge been exponentially increasing?
It has indeed. So anyway, she went out and congratulated him, but
what, on the hedge, or on the
on the football and then the hedge. Yeah.
Was it green and gold as well?
It probably was actually this time of year. Yeah, I'd imagine.
Yeah, there's not really enough water, has there?
No.
I've got a conifer outside. It's going a bit yellow and green.
Yeah, so I don't think she mentioned about the the Socceroos Twitter bombing or anything like that.
Very sad that you know what actually changed the colour of the leaves, John. That's very middle class or maybe middle age. One of the
just getting ready, Tim. I'm just getting ready for Fulham away.
I thought you'd been watching Tim on Country File again.
Got Gardener's World. It's been recorded. Spring Watch as well.
Spring Watch, that was it. Sorry.
Listen, if Jeremy Clarkson could buy a farm,
brilliant TV. By the way,
anything could happen.
You got to watch that advertising for him. But yeah, brilliant.
Old Tim's farm. It could be like an orchard where
we could sell cider.
Yeah, you manufacturing old Tim's ruin out your old orchard.
Every credit.
Colin Calderwood, Sean, has gone to Northampton Town. Was it a shock he'd gone, and how much of an impact will it have on Blackpool next season?
It's not a shock when you learn that he lives locally in Northampton, and he kind of just clearly wants to be closer to home, and that's fair enough. Fair play to him, because he's obviously putting that first above his sort of progression in his career. But I think it is quite overstated how much of an impact that he had. I think he's
clearly plugged a hole, didn't he? I think he plugged a hole when he came in.
But I think I don't think it's Critchley. Critchley is the be all and end all of why we are in the next division. I think that we can sort of rumour and guess about what Calderwood's impact was, but at the end of the day, Critchley is the one that's been changing the system, bringing in the players and the personnel that we've brought in. These are the people that made the difference. Kenny Dougal coming in I thought he was the bigger factor than Calderwood. I think it was the midfield stability that we needed at the time, and that sort of being able to play under pressure would help the back line out when they're in a sticky place, because the back line would clear the ball and it just come straight back to him, and that's where we were getting pressure in our defensive side of things. I think the midfield, having that sort of comfortable presence in midfield helped more, but I think we'll be fine. I don't think it's that big a deal. I don't know who they'll bring in, whether they end up just promoting some of the Liverpool lads that he brought with him. I don't know, but I don't think it'd be too much of a big deal.
I'm slightly concerned that I might have hastened his demise, because I went to the White Horse Inn on Wembley Way after the game, and there was one of my daughter's boyfriend was meant to come with us. So I booked a table for 4. Matt was in there pre-match, weren't he? So it's quite a nice place to go.
Yeah.
And anyway, so there's only 3 of us. So the waiter approaches me and says, "Can somebody sit at your table?" And it turned out it was part of Colin Calderwood's group, and they had a spillover. And so I said, yeah, no problem. Anyway, so Colin comes over and says, "Oh, are you sure it's all right?" I said, "There's one condition." And I said, "That is," and he said, "Oh, what?" I thought he was going to say something like, "You have to buy us a bottle of champagne or something." I said, "Oh, you just come in here and have a photograph." So I think I've sent you the photograph, haven't I? So we had a photograph of Colin Calderwood. I wonder whether I scared him off. I mean, maybe maybe he's thinking like Blackpool's not for him after being accosted and personal time. I don't know, but I'm actually quite sad to see him go. In all seriousness, because I actually think I think he had a little bit more influence than Sean's suggesting, and I think that's demonstrated. Listen, there was a tipping point in our season, wasn't there? And it wasn't just him coming in; it was him coming in, Dougal coming in, and us sorting, and Gretterson coming in and sorting out the back and sorting out the spine of the team.
We were calling for it at the time, weren't we? We were calling for a spine,
we were, and I think he played a role, because I think Critchley's naivety was in relation to the defensive setup of the side, and I think we're going to have to think about I think Blackpool have got to think about how they recruit there, because I think we need a defensive coach, because I think Critchley knows how to. How can I put it? He knows how to match a team. He knows how to work about who the team you're playing and develop the team to work with it. But I don't think his strong point is. My impression is I don't think his strong point is the defensive setup. I think that's what Calderwood brought to the table. I don't know what Garrity brings to the table, and generally that's not criticism. I just don't know. But I think what we saw when Calderwood arrived was a complete sea change in the way that we set our defensive lineup, and that's not a coincidence. Now, Critchley may well have learned in the last 8-9 months what Calderwood had, and maybe we don't need it anymore. I don't know. But personally, I wouldn't surprise me if we see a recruitment on the coaching side, on the defensive front. That's what I think, anyway.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Tim. Have you got just a few thoughts on it, Matt?
No, I agree. I think it's almost like an NFL side, isn't it? Really, they have sort of different
Special
coaches
teams
for different strengths, don't they? So I think I know where Tim's trying to get to, in that Critchley's a more all-rounded coach, but you do need a bit more sort of specialisms in certain areas. And let's be honest, we're probably going to need a defensive coach more than in the Championship than we did in League One. So yeah, I think we'll bring somebody in and hopefully of good caliber as well. I'm sure we'll be doing that.
PFA Players Year of the Year award went to Jerry Yates, Fans Player of the Year, and also Chris Maxwell's named in the League One Team of the Year. So it was good to get a bit of recognition for our players. Not that we got them from the official EFL team, which I think
whenever there's a poll of any regard that fans get to vote for, then we're going to be pretty fine for player awards. I think, to be quite honest,
we do seem to be quite active on social media, don't we? From the point of view of getting our. And listen, it's great, isn't it? And it's because there's a buzz around the club, there's a buzz around the fans, there's a buzz around the players, and I think it's great that we try and make sure that our people. Our guys get the recognition that they deserve, and if that's at the expense of other players who might otherwise have been involved, who gives a stuff, If Suter's crying into the fact that he didn't get his Australian Player of the Year award, who gives a stuff?
Oh, what else have we got? Simon Sadler's statement. It almost brought a tear to your eye, didn't it? And a smattering of Timisms to boot.
He had his thesaurus out, didn't he, as well as me? So he it was great. It was good. It was a great read, wasn't it? I mean, to be fair, it was from the heart. We joke about the Timisms, but it was from the heart, and it was well thought out. It was balanced. It was optimistic. It was realistic. It was everything that you actually want from an owner. In that, he's not some giddy kid who's going to say, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do that. He's tempering expectation, but equally, I think you'll find that he is probably more committed to trying to make sure that we have a successful first season of the Championship than any of us. And I think that's probably, we can all be comfortable that if we don't succeed in the Championship, it won't be for the want of trying. Where in previous, under previous ownership, you're naturally concerned. You immediately think in your relegation fodder. I would be very, very surprised if we're relegation fodder this year.
Yeah, I don't think we'll. I think we'll be mid-table quite comfortably. It's a different kettle of fish, isn't it? We've drawn Middlesbrough at home in the Carabao Cup. Anyone bothered about that?
Sounds like the grimmest draw possible you could possibly have got.
Yeah. At least we're at home, I suppose.
Yeah.
New kit. It's quite a hot topic, isn't it? I'll just try and get it up.
It's amazing.
There it is. There we go, boys. What do we all think?
Not batshit enough for me. It should have been more batshit. Make it as much of a shit shirt as humanly possible.
If you're going to make it a shit shirt, at least be consistent with the shit shirt. I mean, why?
It's a gilet. We're wearing a gilet. It's middle class, like gilet. Get it on the.
Why is it ended at the sleeves?
Why not? It is a template shirt, though, unfortunately, which obviously we realised in the chat afterwards, which is a shame. It's not like a unique shirt to us, but it's. I bloody love it, me. But it's for me, it's not.
Seriously.
I just love it. I love shit shirts. Shit shirts are the best. Like, why? Because at the end of the day, we could have probably 15 home shirts in your drawer, and they're all the bloody same with ours. So, why not have something different?
With having all the white on, and then you've got the Visit Blackpool, it sort of it denigrates from the Visit Blackpool bit, which otherwise was quite prominent.
I said that on Twitter, didn't I?
I'm a less is more man. I like plain. I quite like a wing, like sort of like a collar on it. I know when Blackpool have collared shirts before, I quite like them, but I want it to be tangerine and nothing else. But I can understand. I can understand why people like it, but I don't.
It's funny, really. I've always preferred away shirts. I don't know whether that's just I get a bit bored of looking at tangerine all the time. I'm not sure, but I don't know. Is the away? We haven't seen any. We produced an away shirt yet, but I'm guessing. I might be wrong. I'm guessing it's just going to be wherever the white is. There's going to be tangerine, which might actually look better. I don't know. It might look even a bit more wackier.
Look at this from Dan BFC. Did you lot decide that after the Oxford first leg playoff when you were all leathered?
Yeah. Bloody hell.
Just bear with me. I'm going to have to put power source in me. Sorry. Just bear with me.
Yeah. You could do decorating in it and not really notice when you splash your paint.
Were you saying how you wanted a boring kit again? Is that what you were saying?
No, just saying, Sean. I wondered if I like away shirts rather than home shirts. So I just wondered whether the away shirt was going to have the tangerine where the white is, and I think that would look quite good, possibly. But who knows? It's all off the Puma sort of conveyor belt, isn't it?
We're clearly just template. I mean, have you seen the Euro ones that they did? The away kits. There's about 6 teams with the exact same away kit.
It's appalling to me. I really don't like it.
Well, that's why it's good, John. It's different. It's just that in 20 years' time, you'll be like, "Oh, do you remember that shit?" You won't remember the bland shirt we had last season. You'll be remembering this mental shirt that we've got now.
But they should have just, if they're going to go full mental, why stop at the sleeves? I don't get it.
Because they knew it would annoy fans like you, John, and that is why you're not the target market.
I suppose it is for kids, isn't it?
John, in your years, 40+ years, you shouldn't be wearing shirts anyway.
Well, no,
grow up.
I'm pushing it now.
What do the fans think? Cliff Smith, this kit is hideous. Let's walk and talk. I loved it when he said about going on the pitch. So that means I saw Dan's. As long as Dan Biff says, as long as loads of people buy it for 48 quid and it makes the club money. I think that's the main thing.
I think that sells more than the normal kit, because you'll think as well of it, like kit collectors and people like that will buy these mental kits. And it's like, if you're thinking sales wise, if you look at the way all these other teams are going, they're going unique kits. They're not, or you either go completely classic or you go completely unique. So we've obviously gone that route.
Thing is, with me, I don't buy shirts every single year. If it's a good quality kit and classy, I'll buy it, and I don't think I'd buy that, to be honest. It pains me to say it, but I like the Hummel kits and Fleetwood.
Yeah,
Fleetwood's
I
always
like the Hummel ones. Yeah,
I'd have preferred something from them, like a classic design. But what, everyone says if they'd redesigned it like that famous Umbro shirt that we had, was it late 70s, Tim?
Yeah,
with the Umbro down the sleeves.
The one that Derek Spence and Mickey Walsh used to play.
If they got that redesigned,
well, they should bring out the score draw retro tops that like the remakes that all these other places do. Because I've been looking for the 90s and 80s shirts for God knows how long, and like the Rebecca Southport ones and all those sort of the Bass one as well. Like all those ones would fly off the shelves because all the younger fans love classic shirts at the moment. That's just a thing that is going round at the moment. So
I think for those of a certain, and listen, I think shirt wearing is a Marmite thing anyway. And I don't wear them anyway. So other than I have picked a kit up today from the club for walking football. So we've now got our.
So you do wear them then?
I'll be a full kit wanker when I turn out for the walking football.
Shopping trips next week, just his full kit.
Yeah.
It's funny
if you just look at the screen, I'll just go for Tim's size.
6XL.
That comes in 3 packages.
To
put it together.
I'm on a health kick at the moment. So
you get it air dropped in your back.
I'll be doing a mat.
Well, it's funny really because I've since second lockdown, Tim, I've piled it on another bit of exponential growth, definitely. Jesus Christ.
But I think the target market for shirts is and I think Sean's right. I think this will sell lots, and because it's different, and I think actually it will grow on me. I think when you see it on the pitch, I think the whites will fade a bit. I think it'll just be more of a tangerine look. But I just like tangerine, white shorts, tangerine socks, and no messing around me. And I'm just a traditionalist from that perspective.
And black boots. None of this yellow.
And away kit of white. Away kit has to be white shirts, tangerine shorts, either white or tangerine socks. No messing about. Well, I do like the third kit. I did like last year's third kit. I thought that was spectacular.
Yeah. It's funny what Sean says, though. I remember when I was a youth and I would go down to Nova Sports on Lytham Road as often as I could afford to, and I'd be going through the racks and just buying all sorts of bloody shirts and everything, like that Duke La Prague away shirt one week and West Brom away the next. I didn't care,
I know that West Brom is that green and yellow one.
Green and yellow one, yeah.
That's nice. That
I got a green and yellow. I had green and yellow ones.
I had Saint Etienne's, which was
I had West Brom green and yellow and Newcastle's third away strip, which was green and yellow as well. God knows why. But there you go. Back in the day.
Right, so just before we go, we've got season ticket sales pushing the 8,000 mark. Decent turnout, really, isn't it, for the Blackpool fans supporting the club?
I think by the time we get to the end, I think it'll be nearer 10 because obviously that won't include hospitality, which is about 800, I think, and I think we're going to see people buying at just before the end of the month when they get paid. So I think the combined effect of that should push us north of 9,000, hopefully to 9.5. You bring away fans in, you bring matchday sales in, and we're going to be looking at hopefully five-figure crowds all season, which is what we want, isn't it? That's what Simon deserves as the person who's put his money where his mouth is. Well, he hasn't got a mouth really, has he? It's not like he's bragged about it. He's just done it, and but. We need to support him. We need to support him. We need to support these lads. We need to support the club and Critchley, everything he's trying to do. And I think it's going to be amazing. As long as we're all allowed in, it's going to be absolutely amazing atmosphere next year, I think. Every game.
I think with the season tickets, I know there's even people with like clean credit records are getting turned back by that V12 who just seem to be a bit of a pain in the arse, to be honest. Because obviously last year they had the in-house club payment option, but I presume because of COVID and everything, that's probably not an option this year. So a few people might miss out, but obviously the way that they've backed the club, there'll be a lot of new season ticket holders as well, and sort of capitalising on it.
I hate to mention the CODs, but I think they've got the right thing where you just pay a monthly fee each month, and it includes your season ticket and all sorts of other add-ons. Where you get discounts, this, discounts that. I don't profess to know the full terms of the deal, but if everybody sort of said, look, you pay 30 quid a month Sport Blackpool, and that includes getting into games and it includes this, that, and the other, I think people just sign up for it, wouldn't they? And it would cover your season ticket, it would cover everything. And then there's no big hit where you've all got to lay out at the beginning of the season. Yeah. And I think it's something that clubs should look at.
Definitely.
Hopefully they will, because it's one of those things where you got a direct debit going out. People don't cancel. Won't cancel. It's like the gym membership, isn't it? But more important than the gym membership, in that people don't have a gym membership and not go for 3 months, but they don't cancel. And with Blackpool, when you've got people signed up, the reality is you've trapped them, you've got them. You're gonna hopefully engage with them as well. But people won't. If they don't pay the monthly direct debit, then the season ticket gets cancelled. It's easy.
It's a bit like capturing a patron supporter of the Seasiders podcast.
Certainly isn't it, John?
Which nicely segues on, just before we go, if anyone likes what we're doing here and they want to chip in a few quid per month, the price of a pint per month, just to help us grow, pay for our costs. We've just sponsored the Armfield bar, so there's going to be loads of posters and signage going up there, so it's going towards all things like that. So if you are interested in helping us out, patreon.com/Seasiders.
What I want to know is why do the rest of us look older and you look younger? If you like Wade Robin a bit and to sort of like doctor the images, because you look like about 25. I look about 70.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks so much.
I'm going to be diplomatic about Matt's picture.
It's all in the genes, Tim. What can I say?
All right, okay.
It's on the banner anyway, patreon.com/Seasiders pod. Go to get yourselves to the Armfield and have a look at the mural that we've had done there. Good to have Rob Purden, the genius that is Rob Purden. And finally, just before we go, next season we are offering sponsorship packages for the Seasiders podcast. So if you are interested, you're a local business, you want to get your name out there, particularly sort of kind of pisshead related companies like brew houses. If you want to supply us with some beer, bit of dough, and we'll get your name up on here. So I think that's the perfect synergy, isn't it, Tim? The kind of organisation that we want to partner with.
Anybody does some like really dodgy side could go down quite well, couldn't they?
Yeah. So if there's anyone out there who wants to sponsor the show next season, get in touch. Just hit me up on Twitter and we'll thrash out a deal. Right, that was what are we on now? 1 hour 23. It's flown again, gentlemen, hasn't it? Flown. And I'll just press the outro button, get the music going. Right, so I think we'll have a couple of weeks break, but we'll come back again and review all the latest other news, signings, and the pre-season friendlies, and we'll do a few reviews of that. So that's to come. So thanks for coming on, Sean. Been brilliant to have an accredited sports journalist giving us all this information and scoops on players. So thanks a lot, mate.
No worries.
Thanks, mate. Thanks, Matt, for your Kenny Dougal insight, the hedge insight. You can't buy that, can you?
No, I'm going to get back in the gym and be ready for pre-season. Don't worry, Lance.
We get some binoculars looking at Kenny, see what he's up to.
Well, yeah, I'm not that sort of weird. You're all right.
Right, thanks, Tim. Don't say a lot because we've got the outro music to go in. So all that's been said. Thanks for watching. Thanks for downloading, and up the pool.
Up the pool.